Okay, so I went ahead and renamed directional angle, this to directional angle, just so it was a little bit uh, not quite as long and cumbersome. And then this is the component that we're going to write next. It's the oriented plane, and privilege is normal. And what I mean by that is, let me show you a plane from normal. And let's use as the origin. We're going to use the world origin. We're getting that by passing in the 0 out of plane component. So you can see we're getting the world origin. And then for normal, let's use 0 and x-axis 1. So, okay. Well, let's try it without x-axis because x-axis is optional. Okay, let's get plane over here. And let's close that out. Okay, so you can see that we're creating a plane and it's pointed from the world origin to our vector 0, and so it's working just fine. But when we pass in a x-axis, it is now rotated. So now it's making the x-axis more important than the normal. You can see that now it's pointing to the x-axis and making the normal, it's still going off in the direction it should be, but it's not taking into consideration, it's not pointing directly to the normal. So what we want instead is our component we want an oriented plane that privileges the normal. So in ours, we want the normal to be more important. So let's plane from normal. Just making sure that, I don't know. Okay, so here's what we have. And I'll discuss this component by component. So we've got I can delete that. We've got the origin. We're using plane from normal, and we're just passing in the normal. We're not using x-axis. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so it's working. And now we want to get the directional angle. From inside this plane, from the x-axis to the so now so we want the angle from the x-axis to our vector that we pass in right here. So let's take a look at that. So 36, if we look according to our picture and rotate it that way, 36, that looks about right. 77, that looks about right. 88, so that's about 90, that looks about right. And remember, we're looking at the x-axis right here. So minus 168 is about 180. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to rotate this plane around the x-axis so it points in the general direction of our x that we're passing in, our vector that we're passing in. So we're using rotate plane. Let's see if we can find it over here. And it just rotates a plane around an axis by some angle. Let's test it. Rotates a plane. Yeah, so it's one of those more intuitive methods. And so the angle that we pass in is the angle that we're getting out. The axis is this is going from the origin, so it would be the same thing as our z-axis here, but we're just using the point here because it's the same thing. Well, it's in the same direction, but and then the axis, oh, I already said the axis, and the angle is just the angle. So let's take a look at this and see if it gives us the plane that we want. Okay, so now we're rotating this around, and it's instead of having the x-axis be more important, our plane is pointed directly at our normal. So that's what we want. And it's pointing in the x-axis, but not directly at it. That looks a little funny. But I guess from right there it looks okay. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and stop there and then come back and write our Python component.